Hello and welcome back to another episode of the Talkin' Ball podcast. I am one of your hosts, Jack, joined by
I'm Keaton.
Keaton. Well, the Thunder got a big win last night. We are officially 1-0. So that felt great. The Thunder beat the Denver Nuggets last night in Denver, by a score of, what was the score?
102 to 87, I believe.
102-87. Um, The main thing that stands out to me there is we held the Denver Nuggets to 87 points. I think they scored under 90 like only four times last year. They hadn't scored 87 or less at home since 2021. So the defense was for sure what stood out the most for the Thunder. What do you think about that defense last night?
Oh, it was everything that we kind of expected coming out of that preseason where we also saw awesome defense. I just thought the active hands were a really big deal. Caruso, Wallace, and company poking every ball that passed them, it seemed like. So, um, I think that that's just going to lead to a lot of success this year. Just being aggressive and hustling. Like one play in particular that I thought was awesome was when in the fourth quarter when Denver threw the ball into the backcourt and Christian Brown is just kind of letting it go. It's going to go out of bounds and be a backcourt or whatever, or just be Thunder ball. And we saw the MVP runner-up sprinting full speed down the court to grab the ball and lay it in. Like it's plays like that that I think set this Thunder team apart. Just hustling on defense and everything like that. So I think this team is destined for greatness defensively, especially. And we're without Hartenstein,
Right.
and we're without Kenny Hustle, like and Jay Will. So
And
it's
Topic.
and Topic. It's just impressive. It's just impressive to me. Everything that we saw last night.
Oh yeah. I mean, I didn't really know what to expect going into that game. I kind of felt like it might be one we drop, just like being at Denver, kind of not at full strength, especially in the front court, which is where you would want to be deep against Denver. But we just found a way. I mean, I think when it was our starters versus their starters, that was the more even matchup. Denver might have even won most of those minutes when it was purely starters versus starters. Especially because like first 6 minutes of the game where it was just our starters versus their starters. We got down what, seven or eight. Um,
Yeah, we got down. Let me pull up the biggest lead here, but I think it was even more than that. Largest lead for the Nuggets was nine. Yeah.
Nine. But then the real advantage in that game was the depth. Um, Whenever anyone from the Nuggets bench was in the game, we just found a way to go at them and attack them because Julian Strother, um, Peyton Watson, like they were just targets. They couldn't really defend any of our guys. So we just went at them every time if they were on the court. Even Russell Westbrook did not have a great game. Still doing good things for the Thunder. Gotta love him. But yeah, it was just really impressive what we were able to do to expose those weaknesses for the Nuggets. And that really gives me a different perspective about the Nuggets. Like I'm not really seeing them as a threat to beat us in a playoff series at the moment, just because like that was their full strength team. That was not our full strength team. And so um they just don't have anyone on the bench that's really moving the needle for me. But um now I think we've already gone too long without mentioning the great game that Chet had. He was the story last night. Um 25 points, 14 rebounds, 5 assists, 2 steals, and 4 blocks. No one in Thunder history has ever had that stat line. Um, and he was just having his way out there. I think the thing that allowed him to be so successful was he just looks like he took a massive jump athletically. Like he's stronger, he's quicker, and because of that, he's able to defend Jokic better. Because of that, he's able to put the ball on the floor and drive past Jokic. Or and we didn't see it to that level last year. He was so aggressive. He could get to the rim with ease. He was the rebounding, 14 rebounds. He was just kind of the 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 MVP of the game last night for sure. He was just kind of doing whatever he wanted, and his aggressiveness and strength really was huge for us last night.
Yeah, and I think that it's kind of come full circle for Chet when you look at, our third game of the year last season was at home against Denver. And in that game, I mean, that was only Chet's third ever NBA game, and Jokic really took it to him, and Chet didn't seem like he could really hang in there and put up with that. And so we had to kind of swap him out for Jay Will, and that game didn't go so well. Um, and now I feel like we're getting a totally different Chet, like a stronger, faster Chet that can handle Jokic, and not only handle Jokic, but Jokic can't hardly handle him. Like Chet's unique uh combination of length and speed was really getting to Jokic last night. And so I could see that posing a serious problem for a lot of other teams going forward. The thing that really stuck out to me was his stamina last night. He was able to match Jokic minute for minute. And so that was really impressive to me because last season, being his first season, he had, and coming off of that terrible injury, he hadn't really got a lot of burn last season, like when last season started. And so towards the beginning of last season, you saw him maybe getting really tired relatively quick compared to some of the other players and stuff. And last night, you did not see that at all. So that's one thing that's going to work to our advantage greatly because if you can keep a player like Chet Holmgren out there for 36 minutes, um, you're in good business. So um, that was really impressive from him. Another thing that I really liked from him was I felt like he stayed grounded a lot and didn't bite on a lot of fakes or whatever. I thought he stood kind of his ground and straight up a lot of the times and got good blocks. Like the the one that I really liked was when Jokic kind of took it to him. And Jokic is an extremely talented player. Nobody's denying that. But Jokic took it baseline, passes Chet, and instead of getting greedy or biting on anything, Chet sticks in the play and blocks Jokic from behind at the rim. Gets called for a foul, but it gets reversed. So that was one of the plays for me that just I was like, I just love that he's not giving up on things. Especially like we're talking about a multi-time MVP that he like I won't say embarrassed because Jokic he was good and had a triple double, but man, he took it to him. That's what I will say. What do you think?
Oh yeah, I mean, if Chet can be like this all year, like who's going to stop us? And he's for sure going to be an all-star if he can keep this up. Um, it just looks like he took that next step, which can be huge for this team. Um, the other thing that stood out to me from this game was I definitely don't think it was our best game offensively. And people are still talking about that game as wow, the Thunder dominated the Nuggets. Um, so like J-Dub didn't really have the best game. Maybe something with the ankle being a little sore still. He got two quick fouls early in the game. Shot 5 of 16. We know he can be better than that. Dort, 2 of 7. Kaysen, 2 of 7. Joe, 3 of 10. 1 of 6 from three. Um, Even Shea, like Shea had a great game, but we know he can even be better on offense. Like he was 11 of 24. That's great, but we know so often he's over that 50% mark. Um, so it wasn't our best shooting game, wasn't our best offensive game, but we still won by 15. And most of the game we were up by more than that against a team that's regarded as a a threat in the West. So um, that's the thing. I think that even when we have a not as great offensive night, I think our defense can just carry us to be able to just sustain leads like that, whether we're doing well on offense or not, because our defense is that elite. Um, so not the best offensive night, missing three guys in the front court, still dominate the Denver Nuggets on their home court. So watch out, Lee. Um, that's
Yeah.
all. I mean, just based off of those things alone, it's like I could I could give some crazy overreactions based on that. Like my takeaway from that game was we're winning 65 games. We're gonna we have a real shot at the championship. Um, so what do you think?
So I'd agree with the thought about it's awesome to have a great defense to keep us in the game when we might be sputtering on offense a little bit. And I thought that we weren't as efficient as we would have liked to be. We're not as efficient as we're maybe used to being. Um, we expect to be more efficient going forward. And off nights are going to happen. There's 82 games in a season. Um, having a inefficient shooting night, especially from three, um, it was crazy that we never even really felt like things were turning bad. Like things were going, like in retrospect, things were kind of going bad on offense at times, but we never realized that because the defense never lost its energy, never lost its grit, and we're forcing turnovers left and right. So when you have teams like that, it reminds me of some Oklahoma State football teams we've seen. We've seen teams with elite defenses and subpar offenses stick in games because they're forcing turnovers, right? So when you're doing things like that, I mean, that's why they say defense wins championships, because I'd much rather have that like last night than a terrible defense with an offense that can shoot lights out. Like, because then you're just going to be getting in fistfights every night, 3-point shootouts. So I'd much like you can control the game much better with teams like we have right now. And the positive news is we have a more positive outlook on our offense going forward than some of those Oklahoma State football teams that I remember. Like some of those teams have had no hope going forward on offense. We should be better on offense. We expect better, and we will be better on offense. So I'm not worried at all about that. One maybe overreaction that I will have is I don't know if last night told me as much about us as it did about the Nuggets. I think the Nuggets are in danger of potentially missing the playoffs.
I don't know about that.
And here's what I'm getting to. I think we're better than the Nuggets. I think the Timberwolves are better than the Nuggets. The Mavericks, the Suns, um, are better than the Nuggets. Um, and then you can maybe argue for one of the other teams out of the Pelicans, the Lakers, the Kings. All I'm saying is I think the Nuggets could be a play-in team. And that's what I'm going to say. And that's going to be, like I said, it's an overreaction. But I did not like what I saw from them. I don't think that their bench depth is sustainable going forward, and I think that they're going to need help. Um,
I think it's just one game. Yes, their bench took a hit. Yes, they have to start Christian Brown, who didn't he didn't play terrible last night. But
no, he was good.
that was one game against possibly one of the best defenses ever. We'll see. But I think they're going to find a way to win a lot of games against not as good defenses. Um, that's just one game against. It'd shock me if the Thunder aren't the number one defense in the league this season. So,
Yeah, and they have one of the best players in the world, if not the best player in the world, and so that's at least to their
and
advantage.
and Jamal Murray couldn't do anything last night. The whole game he had either Dort or Caruso on him, and so it's like,
Yeah.
I mean, we don't
I
know how
don't
he's actually going to look this year because he didn't look great in the summer. But that wasn't a super fair test to see how he did against the world's best defenders all night. But
Yeah, that's true also. I agree. However, I don't think I've ever seen Jamal Murray be t like taken out of a game like he was last night. He was not a part of the game.
Right.
He was simply not a part of that game for the Nuggets. And he couldn't be. How can you be when you've got the league's best defenders smothering you because you don't have floor spacing around you? Michael Porter Jr. is about it. Like they were they were letting Christian Brown shoot. They're and then let's talk about the Denver bench a little bit. Russell Westbrook, they were allowing him to shoot threes. Peyton Watson, they're allowing him to shoot threes. I remember them basically waving off Peyton Watson in the corner as he proceeds to shoot an air ball. So, and then Russ, I mean, we saw air balls from him. Like, it's not good, and it's going to get better. That's why it's the beginning of the season. Like, it's a long season, but um, that is going to be my hot take. And I understand that it's hot, but I am going to say Nuggets are a potential play-in watch.
We'll see. We'll see. Here's the numbers on that offense defense thing. I know it's only one game, but in the league, we currently have the 21st best offensive rating and the best defensive rating by far. Which puts us at fifth net rating. Fifth in net rating with the 21st best offense. So, and we know that offense will get up. So that makes it even scarier for the rest of the league. So, um, other thoughts from the game? The starting lineup was a thing that interested me. We started Isaiah Joe as the fifth starter, along with Dort Shea, Dub, and Chet, um, which I think is just funny that we spent all summer being like, is it Caruso or Hartenstein? Maybe Case and Wallace. But then Mark's like, nope, it's Joe. Um, but obviously Hartenstein's hurt. Maybe it'll be him when he gets back. But um, he also said at shoot around yesterday that the starting lineup will be fluid this season, which I guess means it could change game to game, um, which is interesting because that doesn't sound like something I would expect the Thunder to do, but I guess other teams do that. Um, and we have so many different weapons, so we can kind of switch it up depending on the matchup, depending on the other team's weaknesses, what we want to focus on that game. My guess is last night with the Nuggets, we didn't really need the maximum perimeter defense in the starting lineup with Caruso and Dort on the court, because you just need a guy on Murray. But it's not like they have like two elite guards like teams like the Mavericks might. Like I guess the Mavericks we might start Caruso and Dort to go on Kyrie and Luka or something like that. Um, but I think maybe with Denver, we wanted more to focus more on maximum spacing. And we had a lot of spacing last night. It looked good. We were able to run things really well. And that's a big difference from last year. It's nice to be able to actually run some offense and have more space on a lot of our shots. And they'll fall more. We got a lot of good looks that just didn't fall. Um, but I'll be interested to see how things go with the starting lineup, and if it truly varies game to game. And it'll be interesting to see what we choose based on the team, if it is kind of matchup based. So what are your thoughts on the starters?
Yeah, so I agree. Like, having Joe in there kind of shocked me at first because, we had been talking about all the different options with Caruso and maybe Wallace or Hartenstein if he was healthy. And I actually really liked it. I don't necessarily like uh how we shot last night talking about Joe, especially, but I do like the shots that we generated for him. So knowing the guy that Joe is, the kind of shooter he is, those shots are going to fall. Those shot, and even if he doesn't shoot at 100% clip all season, he's he's going to be more efficient, and it's going to have a bigger impact on the game than it did last night. We were able to space the court out for Chet and for Shea, um, especially those two, especially. And Joe was a huge piece in doing that. Um, Now, here's my thing is I've seen tweets or whatever about we started Joe over Caruso to prioritize um, floor spacing over defense. I think that's true. I do think that's true. But one thing that I'll point out is I think Caruso may give you a little bit of both. I don't necessarily think he gives you as uh great a floor spacing as Joe, maybe, but I think that he is both a floor spacer and a defender. So I don't necessarily think you could go wrong if you started Caruso. Like I think that that's a viable option going forward. Like I don't think that if Caruso comes in, the floor spacing is going to suck. That's what I'm saying.
Right. The
Um,
nice thing about this team is you can't really go wrong with anything.
yeah. Yeah. I think another thing that I think we should probably touch on um is Dub had a little bit of an off night. He is my favorite player on the team. He is a great player. He is gonna be more efficient. Like you touched on his maybe coming off of that ankle injury earlier, maybe a little slower getting back in the groove of things. Sure. The thing is, he didn't shoot all that well, and we kind of dominated still. So it's kind of strange to me, maybe not even strange, it's just crazy to me how good that is. How can you have one of one of the heads on your three-headed dragon have a pretty rough shooting night and still dominate one of the best teams in the league? Um, that seems pretty great to me. A player I want to talk about next is Cason Wallace. You have thoughts on Cason Wallace?
I mean, he looked all right. I mean, he didn't shoot the best. He was 2 of 7 from the field, but we saw him more on ball. And I like what I see from him handling the ball a little more. Obviously, I like what I see from him on defense. And it just seems like he's also added some aggressiveness. He was a plus 18, so he was kind of doing a lot of the little things, even when he wasn't getting his shots to fall with 4 rebounds and 2 steals. So I think he's going to be obviously a huge part of this team this year as well.
Yeah, and that is exactly my main point too, is I would group him and Caruso's game together last night as far as they led the team in plus minus, however, combined to shoot 2 for 9.
Right.
Like the value that those two provide is insane on defense, especially. Like they are so active and in every single person's business. Like if I was on the Nuggets last night, I think I'd be annoyed if one of them was on me just because of how in like your face they are. They are like the annoying gnats that won't go away, like that you're trying to get out of your ear or something. Like they are awesome. And I mean, and we've said this before on the pod, but like how awesome is it that Wallace has Caruso to learn from? Like Caruso is um their play style isn't, you know, worlds apart from each other. Like Wallace is a gritty guard that defends and can shoot the ball. So shots will fall for them. One thing that's to note, I think, is with Caruso especially, is it just doesn't seem like um we're generating him very many shot opportunities. So that's something that I'm interested in. It seems like when he has the ball in his hands, he's mostly looking to facilitate and he's making great decisions. And I have no problem with that. I have not had a single problem with him out on the court, like maybe like okay, a guy that's similar in not shooting was Gordo, and every time that he was on offense, we're like, oh my gosh, like why won't you shoot the ball? It doesn't feel like Caruso's had very many of those opportunities. Like it doesn't seem like last night I was never like, shoot the ball, what are you doing? He was always making that next pass and setting us up for success. I mean, and you saw that in his 4 assists that he had in 19 minutes.
Right.
So, and his plus 19 shows that too. He was awesome. He probably had the best game of a player with 0 points that I can remember in a while.
Yeah.
Um,
Next
so
thing, best player off the bench, Aaron Wiggins. We got to talk about him. He had 15 points and 6 rebounds on 7 of 9 shooting, 1 of 2 from three. He just looked like a vet out there. And at this point, he's one of the more solid role players we have. Any team would want a guy like that. He's just looks more polished on both ends. He's making some moves that I didn't even know he had. He had a really nice spin move in the paint to create separation. Just his finishing at the rim is really impressive. And I think when he can have games like that and give us that spark off the bench that we need, that can be a real difference maker for us. And he looked amazing last night, and there's a reason he's the one that saved basketball. So
Yeah, he was out of this world good.
yeah.
Um, I mean, there's not much else to say about it. He was incredible. And one thing that kind of I think is sticking out to me over time that he does well is he seems like the guy that anytime there's a broken possession and the ball's getting kicked to someone and with, 3 seconds on the shot clock, he seems to be the guy that can get a bucket out of that anytime. From a broken possession, getting the ball kicked out to him with a few seconds left on the shot clock, taking it in, do a spin, fade away, book it, or even launching a three. Like he has been really good at that over time, and that's sticking out to me. Um, Also providing 6 rebounds, that's pretty solid. Like, we're slim right now on our big men down low, like with Hartenstein, Jay Will, even Kenny Hustle being out. Like Chet's really all we got as far as bona fide rebounder. And
Mhm.
having guys like Wiggins step up and uh grab 6 boards, like
And
that
Caruso got 6.
that's big. Caruso getting 6, like that's big too. Shea getting 7,
Yeah.
that's big. Like we needed that last night. That was, I think, one of the keys to the game was can we get rebounds? Because if you give Jokic a bunch of second chance opportunities, he's gonna take advantage of that. And so that was really big for the Thunder.
Yeah. I just also want to touch on these last couple guys. Oos. I mean, we expected him to play tonight or last night because of our lack of front court depth. And he gave us a solid 13 minutes, especially in that first quarter. But he looked aggressive. He grabbed a few boards and he had those two threes. If he can come in and give us minutes like that, um, while we're kind of low on big guys, that'd be huge for us. So he looked a little more aggressive too. So I appreciated what Oos did, and also it was surprising to see AJ Mitchell get out there. He had 7 minutes, um, but I knew just because it's Mark and we're the Thunder that we would find a way to get him and Jones kind of opportunities early on in this season. So it'll be interesting to see those little moments that we can plug one of them in there, game to game. And he looked, I mean, he missed his 3 shots, but um, it was his first NBA game. He looked all right. I mean, he looked comfortable out there. It didn't look like he was like freaking out or anything. He's polished, and especially for a rookie, and so he'll get those to fall. So I'm excited to see what him and Jones can do with the opportunities they're given early on this year. Um, Anything else from the game last night before we get into talking about this weekend's upcoming games a little bit?
Yeah, I got 2 things. So I'll touch on Jang as well. Like you said, if he can do that every night, I think we'll take it. Um, like pretty simple. 2 for 3 from three. Yeah, like that's good. We'll take that. Plus 14, plus minus for Oos. Yeah, we'll take that. Like we don't need him to be somebody that's in the game that other teams target and take advantage of when they're in the game. And he was not. And if he can be somebody that's not a target defensively and he can hold his own on offense too, he might crack a roll. Um, but besides that, I think one of the things, so here's a play. I'm gonna try to explain it, see if you can remember it from last night. Uh, we got a steal on one end. We throw it up to Jang in the on the fast break, and he kind of contorts away from the basket to try to shoot a layup, and Paul Watson coming behind him smacks him out of bounds. Or
Peyton.
Peyton.
Shout
not
out
Paul
Paul
Watson.
Watson though.
Yes, so shout out Paul from the Thunder player rankings. We'll get to that. We'll get to you a little later, Paul. Sorry. Peyton Watson smacks it from behind. Remember that?
Yeah,
That's something Shea finds himself in those situations all the time. One-on-one fast break. And every single time Shea takes it right to the defender and makes the defender make Shea miss. I think Usman should take a few notes on that, especially on that play. And there's other plays that he does that as well, where he might be driving at the rim and then just kind of kick it out because he doesn't want to. I would rather see Usman. Usman's like 6'10". Take it to him. Take it to him. And if you get blocked, that's okay. I don't think you will.
right,
Like I want to see Usman on that fast break try to slam it into tomorrow. I want to see him go up with the two hands and try to get a jam. Like I think too often he forgets that he's 6'10". Um, so that's the one thing that I will say about Jang. There's tons like that's the only thing that I'm gonna say remotely area of improvement right now about last night for him. Everything else from him has looked better than it has in the past. Like, um, just him knowing where to be. He's more active. He's moving around. He's not just standing in the corner. Like those are things that I noticed when he was out there that I liked. Um, like anyway, I'm kind of indifferent on his like before tonight or before last night. I was kind of indifferent on him in general. Like if he's gonna have a role, cool. If he's not, cool. But when he's out there, he's got to make an impact. He passed that test last night. That's what I'll say. My second thing, Shay. Um, haven't really talked about him much on the pod just because I feel like we are spoiled that he has that kind of game every night, it seems. But how awesome was he? He, it seemed like was in control every single time he had the ball. Um, he like he has just improved uh somehow like how does it get better than what we saw last season? I don't know, but it is. And these dribble moves that he has to blow by people that the it was crazy the head fake that he had on Gordon where he sidesteps goes to the hole and finds the bucket like that was awesome.
right.
But just the continuation of a lot of skills that we saw last year as far as the fadeaways, the turnarounds, the and then now he's added the pull-up three-pointer. He was 2 for 6 from three last night. We'll take that. We'll take that. Like that's fine for last night.
Yeah,
Like
and just being able to get 8 assists, 7 rebounds. I mean, I don't want to take any of that for granted. Like we still saw some of his amazing shot making ability, which at this point it's like, oh yep, that's his shot. He's gonna make that. But for anyone else, it's like, oh my gosh. But we're just so used to Shea making those turnaround fadeaway shots. And like you said, if he has the pull up three as a weapon also, like this could be one of the best players ever. Like so he looked amazing last night. It was awesome to see him back and making the shots he was. And like we said earlier, we know he can be even more efficient. And so I'm excited to see that. Um,
yeah,
but it's just evident when one team has a guy like that and the other team doesn't. But I mean, obviously
like
they Jokic, but just like that insane shot making ability and um, just like controlling the game. Like he set the pace of the entire game, and that was obvious. And he was so in control and could do whatever he wanted for the most part. And like that block, he had a block too that was very similar to Chet's block, where got him from behind, and then it was overturned. So shout out Mark for starting the season 2 of 2 on challenges, but on like very similar plays. But both of those were really impressive blocks. But Shea can just do a little bit of everything, and you're right, he does look even better, which is crazy. We didn't even know that was possible, but um, yeah, good to have a guy like that on our side.
Yeah, and also 8 assists last night on a night that we weren't particularly efficient from the field.
Yeah,
So,
imagine if we knocked down a few more of those really good looks he created. So,
right, I mean, he could be at 12, 13 assists easy.
right.
Um, three blocks, two steals,
Yeah.
on top of the near triple double from your best player. Like, okay, we'll
Yeah.
take that.
Shout out Shay. All right. Overall, great game. We looked amazing. Um, glad Thunder basketball is back. So excited for the games this weekend. We play the Bulls tomorrow in Chicago at 7, and then we'll be back home Sunday for the second night of a back-to-back for the home opener against the Hawks. So both of these games should be wins, I would imagine, if we can just take care of business. These are kind of middle to low end Eastern Conference teams that I believe we're much better than. So excited to see us go up against both of these teams. Excited to see if we can just dominate a team that's for sure not as good as Denver was. So um, yeah, I'm also excited to watch the Bulls and Hawks. Those are kind of two teams I'm interested in watching this year, just because mostly because of Giddy for the Bulls, and then I think the Hawks just play like a fun, offensive, fast brand of basketball. So, um, what are your thoughts on these games coming up?
Yeah, I think the Bulls game, talking about the Bulls game first, I think that is going to be another good opportunity to just go out there and play the way you know how, take care of business, but also learn more about your team. I think it's going to be a good opportunity to maybe experiment with, um, your rotations. Do you rotate tomorrow differently than you rotated last night? And I think the answer could be yes. Um, in my opinion, I think we'll probably see Caruso come off the bench a little sooner if he's on the bench than we saw last night. Um, didn't he actually did not come off the bench. He wasn't the sixth man. He wasn't even the seventh man last night. So
I think him and Jang came in at the same time
for
to
that
be the
seventh, eighth.
seventh and eighth man.
Yeah. So I think, which I guess when I think about it, like I think Wallace probably does deserve to be in that sixth, seventh spot. So I don't know, but you might experiment with that. Is my only point. Um, Another thought is this weekend could be a time for Dylan Jones and AJ Mitchell to get a little bit more burn than they may have gotten last night. Um, However, and the team knows this, it's not like I am speaking to the team, but it's like take care of business first. Like these aren't exhibitions where you can uh try out all these things, these crazy things that I'm thinking about. First, task at hand, go in there and kick butt, then maybe you can uh you know try some different things. But speaking about the Bulls in particular, um, they don't really have the star power, in my opinion. Like
Giddy's a
Zach
star.
Levine, yeah, like he,
Giddy.
oh, Giddy, yeah, like I I think he is good, but they, I mean, you put Dort on Levine and then you make someone else beat you. I don't know if they have anybody else that can beat us like that. Like
Kobe White's
Kobe
good. Kobe White's good.
Kobe White does have seem to have pretty good games against the Thunder, I feel like. So maybe we'll put Caruso on him. You never know. That's my whole point, or Wallace on him. That's my whole point. You experiment with the different lineups, and maybe since we have a lot of flexibility, you kind of mold to fit the team that you're playing defensively.
Yeah,
Uh,
I'd be interested to see if we go with the same starting lineup. Also, like maybe with two really good guards, like Levine and Kobe White. Maybe we'll go with Case and Wallace, so he can guard one of them or Caruso. But you never know. I'll be interested. I mean, when it all comes down to it, and starting lineup doesn't matter too much. Everyone gets their time out there, but
Yeah, and I'm gonna look at the box score here of the Bulls' first game. So they started Pat Williams, Vucevic, Kobe White, Levine, and Giddey. So I kind of expect to see a lot of what we saw last night as far as how we treated Westbrook and Peyton Watson, not Paul Watson. Peyton Watson in the way that we address Giddey. I see us playing Giddey similar to how people played Giddey last year. About uh, we're gonna stay home because we know that you're better closer to the rim than you are further away from it. Like, and that's the nice way of putting it. And so, make Giddy beat you from three. Uh, make, uh, maybe throw a double at Kobe White and Levine. Make them make a play to Pat Williams or Giddy. Like things like that I expect. Now, here's another thing is the Bulls are in a very similar bench situation that the Nuggets are in. Nobody on their bench can compete or compare to people on the Thunder's bench right now, in my opinion. The way that the Bulls win this game is if their starting lineup plays out of this world. Um, because like you had mentioned, the the minutes that were starting lineup versus starting lineup last night were a lot closer than the minutes that was bench against bench.
right.
So that could be a recipe for success all season if the Thunder, if they can hang in there with starting lineups or, get the advantage against starting lineups, which a lot of teams they will get the advantage against. I think the bench can hold their own too. So I think it's gonna take pretty impressive games for teams to beat the Thunder this year.
Yeah. And that's a nice thing about having a team like this. We can go into games against lesser teams and just kind of assume we're gonna take care of business and um, that it won't really be an issue. And I think we will. Um, if we could take care of the Nuggets like we did last night, especially. So yeah, like you said, I'm interested in these games to see maybe the guys that don't usually get as much opportunity, maybe get a little more like our rookies and maybe some Usman, a little more Usman. But yeah, I'm excited. We're going to watch the Bulls game at the Uncontested Podcasts watch party tomorrow night, so that'll be fun.
Shout
Um,
out.
but overall, I'm just happy Thunder basketball is back, and I think this is going to be a really fun season. Probably one of the most fun we've ever had, if not the most. Maybe the best team we've ever had, most exciting to watch. So every night, just I'm going to be looking forward to every single game so much and be so invested in every possession. I was talking to a friend of the podcast, Kate Faith, last night, and just talking about how it like feels like playoff intensity kind of thing, just because of all the lead up that's gone into this season and just how invested we are because we know the potential that this team has to be so special. Um, one last thing before we move on to our final segment of the show. Let's do our Thunder season win predictions.
Okay, yeah,
Total
and
wins.
also before we move on too, I want to touch on the Hawks.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, Thunder win prediction. Thunder.
I'm gonna go 63.
Okay.
What are you saying?
Wow. I mean, if they won 63, that'd be awesome. And the crazy thing is I think that they can. Uh, bless you.
Thanks. Thank
I think that's our first talking ball sneeze.
you.
Um,
Oh, big moment.
yes, chat clip that. Um, um, Win prediction, I'll go. Gosh, I don't want to just undercut you and go one under you. I'm going to go one over you. I'll go 64.
All right. We'll see.
Now,
High hopes for the Thunder this year.
I would go 62, like, but I don't want to be that guy that takes the under because nobody likes to take the under. You know what I'm saying? So
Yeah.
I'm gonna go 64. Um, yeah, real quick on the Hawks. I think the Hawks are gonna be a tough matchup for the Thunder. I think the Thunder should win, but here's my point. The Thunder are slim right now. Maybe we can get Jay Will back. I don't know how long he's gonna be out.
Yeah.
There's a chance. But if anybody is going to give the Thunder trouble right now, it's going to be a team that has pretty uh like a big lineup, like a tall physical lineup. And I see Capella and I see Jalen Johnson and I see Onyeka Okongwu. And I think those are three pretty physical guys that the Thunder are going to have to put up with. Now, I think the Thunder have the tools to do that. But I think that those are three guys that are equipped to play well and rebound well. In the Hawks' first game, those three guys combined for 28 rebounds. Um, or 25 rebounds, sorry. 25 rebounds. So
Whoa.
so that's a lot of rebounds between those two. And then if you maybe tack in DeAndre Hunter to that, it's another 6 rebounds. So that's 31 rebounds between those four guys. So the Thunder are gonna have to rebound. And, you know, Trey Young, very talented scorer, like that the Thunder are gonna have to put up with. Um, However, that's kind of where that ship uh docks into port a little bit because who else is going to make the Thunder pay uh for like I don't know. Like they don't have Murray anymore. So and Dyson Daniels doesn't really scare me. Um
He
from
looked
the
good the other night, but
he was good the other night.
I don't think he's going to keep up that shooting.
Yeah, I'm just saying that I think that the Thunder can handle Dyson Daniels. Um
Hot take.
yeah, maybe. Onyeka Okongwu though is the story the other night. 11 for 12 shooting with 28 points.
Yeah.
Um
Yeah.
so can you contain him? Other than that, the Hawks played 9 players the other night. Um, so they didn't go very deep into their depth. So because other than that, they have like Larry Nance Jr. that didn't play, Garrison Matthews, um, Casey Wallace's brother Keaton. Um,
Shout out Keaton Wallace.
Shout out Keaton Wallace. Um,
Yeah.
anyway, those
They
are my
looked
thoughts.
good the other night, but also that was against the Brooklyn Nets, so I don't know how much stock to put in that.
That's true.
Uh,
Very true.
I think they'll be better than maybe a lot of people think they are going to be. I can see them being 8 or 9 in the Eastern Conference standings. Um, but the Thunder should be able to take care of business against a team like that. Just because of the Thunder are not supposed to be 8 or 9; they're supposed to be 1 or 2, and so
In the
uh,
West.
in the West, and so. Yes, the Hawks have talented pieces, but they don't have the depth and the star power that the Thunder do on
Right.
offense or defense. And so, if all goes according to plan, that should be a game that the Thunder dominate in their home opener. So, um, yeah, I'm excited for that one. I'm a Trey Young fan, so I always like when he comes to town. Now I won't be able to go to that game, but still excited for it.
Yeah, and also the thing to note is that's going to be coming off a back-to-back for the Thunder, so they better.
Yeah, kind of weird to schedule a Chicago then back home back to back this early in the year. Like I feel like we could have spread out these first 3 games a little bit to make that not happen, maybe instead of
Right.
not playing the first two games of the year, waiting till Thursday, and then we have to play back to back on the weekend. But
Yeah,
it all has to do with the TV, like when our game was going to be scheduled on TNT last night and stuff like that. But
yeah. Um, that's very true. The Hawks on a back-to-back, or like us playing the Hawks on a back-to-back, you know who we could potentially see?
oh,
Maybe Alex Reese or Dukas.
we should see them after we're up by 30. All
That's
right.
true. That's true.
All right. Oh, I'm requesting to share my screen here.
I'll allow that.
Thank you. Okay. Last episode we completed the Thunder player rankings. We finished going through every Thunder player of the past. We ranked them on stats, impact on winning, personal opinion, longevity, and culture, and gave each of those a score out of 10. And so they had an average score out of 10, giving us the rankings. So we have this list of every Thunder player that's ever played for the Thunder from 1 to 152. I guess now that Alex Caruso and AJ Mitchell and Dylan Jones and Dukas made their debuts, I guess they're not included on here yet, but they will be eventually. But I thought today, since this is like our first episode after completing the rankings, we could just kind of briefly talk about them. Um, Overall, I like how things turned out. There's nothing like glaring that stands out to me that's like this is wrong because I feel the reason we did the rankings like this was because we wanted to some people may say Kevin Durant was the best player to ever play for the Thunder, but like we wanted these rankings to encapsulate things like our opinion and how long they played for us and how they were for the culture, like including the organization and the city and all that kind of stuff. And so we wanted to go through and make these rankings to give us a list of kind of the bigger picture, not just like on paper statistics, how good they were just on the court. And so that's kind of what we qualify as like being the greatest Thunder player. And so this list gives us a full idea of pretty much any factor. Therefore, Russell Westbrook's at the top of our list right now. Um, so like on first glance, do you see anything that maybe you think is like not the best place for a player to be ranked? Like they ended up too high or too low, or maybe someone that stands out to you is like, oh wow, they're really good in a really good spot for how they were. Anything just pop out to you?
So I think most people are in a good spot. The thing that pops out to me, from purely a viewership perspective, different than what I like, my opinion on this player going into these rankings is Kevin Martin, who's at 27.
Yeah.
Um, when I or when you know when we started doing this, and I looking at his stats, I'm like, wait, those are actually kind of good. And so he ended up a lot higher than I thought I would, or he would be, because when I watched him back then, I didn't really, he wasn't my favorite. He definitely was not my favorite. I think maybe some of that could have come with the salt remaining from me being upset that we traded Harden.
Yeah.
But I remember Nana and I both didn't like it when I would watch with my Nana. So, uh, uh, Kevin Martin was higher than I thought he would be going in the rankings. Now I think he deserves to be there based on, um, you know, the things that the criteria that we graded on.
Right. The thing that stood out for me most is um, guys being higher because of their high like culture impact and personal opinion impact, stuff like that, which is what we wanted out of this list. Guys like whether it be Josh Hustis at 66, like he's based on his stats, he is down probably in here with guys in the hundreds, but Josh Hustis is just a solid guy that was around for a good amount of time, and a lot of people really liked, or guys like Muscala at 22. Like he didn't have the biggest impact on the court, but he's a guy that loved the Thunder, and the Thunder loved having him. So I think that's why he deserves to be stated as the 22nd best Thunder player. Nick Collison at 11. Like he's definition culture guy, longevity guy. He got his number retired because he's a culture guy. He doesn't have the best stats. He averaged 4 and 4, but he did that over 10 seasons, and now he works for the Thunder, and everyone loves him. So, um, I think that kind of shows that, um, like the point of these rankings was to just encapsulate them as a whole, not just on paper. And I like that that showed through how the rankings actually turned out. Um, Now I know a lot of you are probably listening, so I'll read through like the top 25. And we can just discuss that real quick. So number one's Russell Westbrook. Two is Kevin Durant. Three is Shea. Four, Serge Ibaka. Five, Steven Adams. Six, J-Dub, Jalen Williams. Seven, Paul George. Eight, Lou Dort. Nine, Jeff Green. 10, Chet Holmgren. 11, Nick Collison. 12, Chris Paul. 13, Aaron Wiggins. 14, Andre Robertson. 15, James Harden. 16, Thabo Sefolosha. 17, Josh Giddey. 18, Jeremy Grant. 19, Isaiah Joe. 20, Dennis Schroeder. 21, Jalen Williams. 22, Mike Muscala. 23, Ennis Cantor. 24, Kenrich Williams. 25, Kason Wallace. Um, so overall, that seems like a really good top 25. If you were just to ask me, name the top 25 Thunder players, I would probably include most or all of those guys. And I like how the order turned out. It's cool to see a lot of like the role players that are currently on the team included there, just because they all just really know their role and they do it really well. And they understand the Thunder culture and they are just bought in. And a lot of them I can see being here for a really long time.
Yeah, I would agree with all of that. Um, I think the only thing that could be flawed with the list in a little bit is, or a little bit is, I think there's probably a little bit recency bias towards the players still on the roster. Kenny, for example, uh, love Kenny. But I don't necessarily know if those stats that are on there are. Sorry, am I looking at the right column? Let me look. Yeah, 6.9 points, 4.1 rebounds, 1.9 assists, zero point 0.8 steals. I don't necessarily know if there's somebody at the bottom of the list that has those stats if we're giving him a 6 on the stats. That's the only thing I'll say. Um,
That's fair.
but a guy like Micic, if you scroll down to Micic, he was another guy when you're asking if there's a guy that I think should be higher or lower.
Where is he?
I think he's up from
Oh,
there.
yeah. 63.
63. Wait, will you scroll up so I can see under? Okay. Yeah. I think um I think he's probably a little high in the grand scheme of things. I think his ratings of stats and everything are fair. Um but and now you scroll down a little bit, sorry. I'm trying to see some players below him. Um yeah, like a guy like uh maybe I don't know. Maybe Micic is in a fine zone. I guess he's ranked the same as a lot of players. Like I was gonna say Josh Hustis, I probably would value in total more than Meach. Because wait, do they have the same? Sorry.
Yeah,
Okay.
there's five guys with a 4.2 here. So,
Yeah, so I think that that's fine. I think that in the grand scheme of Thunder, Meach was fine, but I think that there's some maybe players below him.
yeah, and that's another thing. Like
Not many.
a lot of these players played before we were like watching the Thunder every night and fully invested, or maybe before we even turned 10 years old. So I'm sure there are some guys that played early on that had a bigger impact than we realized just by hearing a little bit about them here and there, or just looking at these stats. Like someone might have been a great culture guy and we just weren't aware of it just because we weren't fully invested yet. Um, and so I'm sure these rankings aren't perfect, but it is cool just to um, have a little bit of an idea of um, ranking of encapsulating more than just the stats, kind of the grand scheme of player as a whole. Just because I don't know if I've seen anyone really do something like this.
Right. Yeah, that's what I'll say too is definitely we did this for fun and because we wanted to and because we thought it would be cool. And we did it to the best of our ability. And so I wouldn't, if I was a casual viewer or a viewer, critique this as being some ESPN released ranking or something like that, have a little bit of grace towards maybe some recency bias or bias in general because we've watched some players and haven't watched the others. So we did it in the best of our ability and had fun doing it too. So
Right. Well, thank you guys for tagging along on our journey through ranking the Thunder players of all time. We'd love to hear more of your feedback about the list. It's on our Twitter page as well if you want to go check that out and tell us what you think. But it's been fun diving into all these players and talking about them a little bit. So, um, yeah, with that, thank you guys for tuning into this episode. Super excited. The Thunder basketball is back. It was awesome to watch an awesome regular season game last night. And excited for two more this weekend. So, we're excited to go along through this journey that is the upcoming season with you guys. Um, Interact with us on Twitter and YouTube. Um, Comment, like, subscribe, follow, whatever. And yeah, we'll catch you probably early next week sometime.
and last thing I've got is
Yeah.
my player of the game is Chet from
Oh,
last
player of the
night.
game.
Uh, which I'll start bringing that up during the game recap, but is that the same for you?
Yeah, Chet.
Chet, book it.
Up, Chet.
We'll see you next time.
Bye bye.